This DeBacco University video, I'm going to go over lab safety, some things that may seem like common sense, but it's always good to have a little reminder. All right, let's get into the details of lab safety. So when we're looking at lab safety, rule number one is always listen to the teacher. Be sure to listen to instructions, read the lab procedures as always, and be sure to ask questions if you have them. And if anything does happen during the lab, be sure you also inform the teacher as soon as you can. Don't wait, don't go through, just go through, raise your hand, come right up, and be sure to inform your teacher. Now keep in mind that each lab is a little different, but there are some consistencies. So while the procedures themselves might be unique, there's definitely some aspects that are consistent across all labs. And these will likely have lab-specific additions or specialties or things to look out for or extra reminders, but keep in mind that all these apply to all labs. Key number one is never work alone. The goal here is having a partner can really help you look out for each other and be able to catch things, be able to ensure that someone's staying near the Bunsen burner if you have a flame going while someone else grabs equipment. So never work alone. Also know your surroundings, know where the gas outlets are, the sinks are. Even if you're not using the gas outlets, make sure they're off. We want to make sure that we're just double checking those things, as well as electrical outlets, exits, in case of emergency gas shutoff switch, where your teacher is, even though they might be circulating around the room, and then of course the goggles cabinet where you'll go to hopefully first. So importance of those goggles, the reason why we stress the importance of wearing the goggles is also a key part, not just having them on your neck or up on your forehead. Glasses are not goggles. As we can see here, there is definitely some full protection. So there's side protection and also seals everything up. You can adjust them, so you can clean them. So if they're too tight or too loose, these are adjusting straps. So it makes it really easy. The goal is really to avoid chemical burn of the eye, which is not something you want to have. And if something does get into your eye, it's an eye wash station for 15 minutes before you can leave the room to do anything. And that is not a pleasant experience. So if you get something in your eyes, well, then you have to go to the eye wash station, have your lab partner alert the instructor, help ensure that you make it there safely, and then you are in that eye wash station for a full 15 minutes. So keep in mind that it's definitely worth the couple seconds to just put the goggles on. Even if they leave a little bit of a mark, that will go away very quickly versus having to spend 15 minutes in the eye wash station and then proceeding with further steps there. So just take the precaution, take the preventive measure. It'll save you a lot in the long run. If you have long hair, you want to make sure you're also tying that back. You don't want to get that caught in anything. You want it to be a fire hazard. So just tying that hair back really does help eliminate it from it being a major problem that might be unintentional. Clean your workstation and work with a clean workstation. So only keep the essentials in your working area. Put all other materials away, a separate location. You don't want to be working in a mess. It makes it really easy to spill something. It makes it really easy to lose something. It makes it really easy to miss something as well. All areas of concern. So also do not perform unauthorized experiments. The labs are what the labs are. Unintentionally mixing of things could cause dangerous reactions, something that you may not realize that you're basically mixing and causing to occur. And again, don't get fancy with the labs. Use the lab equipment for what's intended for and only that purpose. No food or drink at the lab stations. This is important because water looks a lot like hydrochloric acid in a beaker. So be mindful of that. We want to just avoid that entirely. We also want to avoid any potential for contamination. If you're touching one thing, touching another thing, you want to make sure you're keeping your food items in separate locations and your drinking water in separate locations than the actual lab station. Keep chemicals in the chemical area. Here we can see that there's definitely a nice defined area in the front of the room. That's great. Stock solutions will likely be in a defined area. You can take what you need, bring them back to your lab stations, and when you're done, you redeposit them in this central area. That just keeps everything kind of in a known location, allows the instructor to know if they're running low on something. Just a great way to kind of keep things organized. Check the containers for labels. Now, labels can look very different. They could be handwritten, they could be printed on, they could be official labels. We want to try to avoid containers in empty and containers that lack any sort of labeling. And we're not sure what was refilled with that. Was it emptied out and poured in with something else? Is this an acid? Is this just blue food dye? Is this copper sulfate? We don't know unless there's a label. Inspect glassware every time that you use it. So while this looks really impressive and definitely an obvious sign that there's damage to that glassware, sometimes they could be very fine cracks. So you just want to inspect those, especially if you're looking at heating it. That is basically a weak point, and that could cause the glass to fail prematurely. Heating a test tube. So if we're heating test tubes, you want to inspect, because it is glassware, for any cracks as well. And when we're heating it, after it passed inspection, make sure you angle it away. You should have your hair tied back, you should be wearing goggles, and then you're heating your test tube in a direction that's away from you and also away from others. Never heat closed containers, should go without saying, because that building up of pressure can, of course, create shards of glass, could create an explosion. Things, of course, we want to avoid there. Always want to make sure there's an opening to that container on anything that we are heating. Keep flammable substances away from heat sources. It might seem a little obvious here. We don't want to have something that's flammable near a heat source, but we want to be careful on some that burn very clean, very clear, if you will. Ethanol, for example, burns in a basically you can't really see the flame. This is what it looks like under a dark condition with not quite an even burn there. You can see some yellowing red there, and that blue, very clear flame to that. So many people in the lab have knocked over ethanol near a flammable source and basically lit the area on fire and didn't realize it, and actually burned themselves because they were putting their hands into flames that they didn't see. So you don't always see the flames, so be aware of that. If you spill something, say something. So alert your teacher if you spill anything, whether it's coffee or something that might be a chemical. Sometimes it's an easy cleanup, sometimes it's really just a paper towel. Other times it might need or require a spill kit. So again, let your teacher know, and they'll let you know what the proper procedure is. Wear closed-toed shoes. This might seem, a little bit strange at times, particularly in the summertime or warm seasons. You just want to avoid anything from physically dropping on your feet or any chemical spills that might occur. Closed-toed shoes should be worn. That gives you just a little more of a buffer between what you're using and your own skin. When smelling chemicals, so this is kind of an interesting one. You don't want to just put it over and just smell it directly. You want to use something called the wafting technique, and we could see that kind of demonstrated here. You kind of like hold it away, and you're basically getting some of the fumes to mix in with the air. In case it's a really strong smell, you want to try to avoid that direct kind of inhalation, because it could lead to fainting, could lead to irritation of your mucous membranes, things you want to avoid. And both of these people do a really good job of showing you the wafting technique. Something you may see that may not be fully aware of is the hazard diamond. It's just basically these 4 different colors that kind of give you an idea of the health, the fire, the instability, and a specific hazard if that product does have that. The higher the number, the more dangerous, and this white box down here has a coating there. Again, that's something you might be 100% familiar with, but just something that you might see, be aware of, and your teacher is aware of this. And there's also behind the scenes, there's something called SDS sheets, or safety data sheets. This gives all the information about whatever chemicals are being used in the lab. And if you do have an incident with a chemical, this is brought to you to the nurse, and they're able to then to enact the proper first aid or take the appropriate next steps. Or if they have to go through and call some sort of other agency, they can at least inform them of what the SDS sheet says and suggests, and gives you that good information. So hopefully you don't get into that situation, but again, those are for all chemicals, so there are proper procedures. The key part is to be safe, let your teacher know, so you avoid any problems and you can enjoy your time in the lab.